The Barry Alvarez Show with your host, Matt LePay.
Welcome to the show. Well, it's obvious now close games are the norm for the Badgers this season. Yet another down-to-the-wire game in Ann Arbor on Saturday. Michigan getting by Wisconsin 13-10. The Badgers' defense returned to form, holding Wolverines tailback Anthony Thomas to 82 yards on 29 carries. Michael Bennett with another good day. He led all rushers 123 yards on 30 carries. And Barry, when you think of classic Big Ten football games, I would think Saturday in Ann Arbor is what a lot of people have in mind. The result disappointing, but just a good old Midwest football game that people have become accustomed to.
Yeah, that's the way I would view it. Two teams playing hard, playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. The team that's going to win that game is the team that makes plays. And we had our opportunities. We had some chances to win that game, get some points on the board, and didn't take advantage of it.
Well, your defense did play well. You always talk about stopping the run first, and you did a real good job against Thomas.
I thought our defense really bounced back and played the way they're capable of playing. I mean, that's a veteran offensive line. Probably it'll be the best offensive line we'll see all year. Thought our guys really played well, played against a good running back, stopped that run, and for the most part, gave up some plays in the passing game, but they're going to move the ball some. You have to give them credit. There's some very talented people on the field for Michigan. When you hold them to 13 points, you'd like to think that you can win.
All right, it was a gorgeous day for football in Ann Arbor on Saturday, so let's get right to the highlights. The first half of Saturday's
There were more than 111,000 fans at Michigan Stadium to welcome the home team, but it was the visiting Wisconsin Badgers providing the crowd with the game's first threat. So very quickly, the Badgers get Chris Chambers involved in the game. His first catch of the year, a 9-yard pickup and a first down. Then Michael Bennett found some room off the corner for 16 yards to the Badgers' 43-yard line, and Wisconsin had a drive going to begin the game. On a 3rd and 14, Brooks Bollinger able to avoid the rush and sidearms this long pass down the sideline for Nick Davis. It's a 34-yard connection to the Michigan 27-yard line. But a few plays later, the drive stalls when Bollinger on the rollout wanted to find Davis in the end zone, but Michigan cornerback Todd Howard was there for the interception. End of Wisconsin threat. Michigan, though, gives it right back a few plays later. Drew Henson had the ball knocked loose by Mike Eccles. It was recovered by John Favre at the Wolverines' 34-yard line. This set up the game's first scoring opportunity for Vitaly Pisetsky, who slams home this 49-yard field goal to give the Badgers a 3-0 lead. Michigan turns it over again later in the first quarter. Henson again guilty of the miscue. Trying to scramble out of traffic, simply dropped the ball. John Favre pounced on it at the Wisconsin 41-yard line. Unfortunately for the Badgers, they could do nothing with it. Trying a little razzle-dazzle and end around to Lee Evans, and then he goes up top. A deep pass intended for Nick Davis, but it's intercepted by Dwayne Patman. The first quarter ends with Wisconsin leading 3-0. In the second quarter, the Badgers had an opportunity, pinning Michigan deep in its own territory, forcing a punt, and Nick Davis with a nice return. The Badgers had the ball in Wolverines territory. Unfortunately, however, penalties took the Badgers out of any scoring range. Michigan late in the first half trying to get a game-tying field goal. A big play here as Henson finds David Terrell deep into Wisconsin territory. That 33-yard connection set up a Jeff Delverne field goal with just 4 seconds left in the half. The teams went into the locker room at the Big House, tied at 3.
defensive struggle. Barry, I know going into the game, you weren't sure, and you didn't sound very optimistic you could get a lot of snaps out of Chris Chambers. His statistics were modest, but did he play a little more than maybe you thought he could going in?
I'm not sure how many snaps he had. We planned on trying to use him between 25 and 30 snaps, and we did run him deep on a few deep routes, but it doesn't appear to me as though he has a lot of confidence in it yet. I think that game probably helped him gain a little more confidence, and it's still nice to have him back on the field.
All right, we will step out. It's a 3-3 football game at the break. Stay with us. We'll look at the second half of Saturday's game at Michigan as the Barry Alvarez Show continues. They're tied at 3. Now let's move on to the second half of Saturday's game.
Like their first drive in the first half, Wisconsin had something going on its first drive of the second half. Brooks Bollinger on the scramble, good for 19 yards, down to the Wolverines' 36-yard line. But a couple of plays later, the Badgers turn it over again. Michael Bennett losing a fumble for the first time this season. Dave Petrozello pounced on it, and the Badgers again were denied. Michigan had something going on its ensuing possession, but on third down, Drew Henson was sacked by Wendell Bryant. The Wolverines had to settle for another Jeff Delverne field goal that gave the Wolverines a 6-3 lead. The Badgers were looking to answer late in the third quarter. Bollinger finding Lee Evans, who just barely stepped out of bounds, trying to make the inside cut. Still, it was a big gain, and the Badgers had a threat going. And it was Michael Bennett breaking free of several Michigan defenders for 9 yards. The drive continues as play moves on to the fourth quarter. Bollinger with the pass to Chad Coons for 8 yards to the Michigan 9. But a few plays later on third and goal for the Wolverines 5. It was Bollinger to Coons again, and Chad was able to get it across the goal line, giving the Badgers a 10-6 lead. But Michigan, in its ensuing possession, had the answer on a 3rd and 10 from the Wolverines' 21. Henson with a strike to David Terrell, good for 21 yards and a first down. Later on 3rd and 8 from the Wolverines' 44. Henson again with time in the pocket, finds Terrell again with a nice catch. 20-yard gain to the Badger 36. On 2nd and 8 from the Badger 34. Henson going to the other side of the field. Finds Marquise Walker. 17-yard gain to the 17-yard line. Then on 2nd and 8 from the 15. Henson on the run, chased by Ross Kalaji, then Jake Sprague tries a tough pass deep into the end zone, a jump ball. The ball is pulled down by David Terrell, and the Wolverines had the lead late in the game. There was still some drama, though, at Michigan Stadium. Bollinger finding Chris Chambers for 11 yards. And it was Michael Bennett, good for 17 yards to the Michigan 46-yard line. They go to the ground again on the delay. Bennett finding room off the right side for 15 yards to the Wolverines 31. From there, the Michigan defense stiffens. The Badgers try to get a game-tying field goal. But Vitaly Pisetsky's 42-yard try missed just barely wide left. The Wolverines faced a 3rd and long. One play away from having to punt, but Drew Henson, with the scramble, is able to dive across the first down marker, and from there the Wolverines were able to run out the clock. Wisconsin had one desperation opportunity. They simply ran out of time. Michigan escapes a 3-point winner.
We knew what they were going to run, and we were focusing in on it, and that's we were able to stop them a little bit. But they came up with some big plays in the passing game, and they won the game with it.
We still have a lot of ball to play. We still can accomplish some things that we need to accomplish, so it's never a lost cause.
Right now, the Big Ten title is out of our reach, or it's out of our focus. I mean, we can't think about that. We got to think about winning games and put ourselves in the best situation possible for, the postseason.
I mean, you always want to be able to obtain your goals and meet them. As far as us changing them, we're going to have to change and just try to win out the season and, hope for the best.
For the record, 10 years ago, 4 teams finished tied atop the Big Ten with 6-2 records. But, Barry, based on what the players are saying, that's not what it's about right now. It's just trying to get on track, get a win, and go from there.
That's right. And I talked to him about that after the game. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get back. I thought we made progress. I thought we improved in this football game. I thought we played better. Now it's just a matter of continuing to improve, get back on the winning track. We've got our hands full with a very tough opponent coming in this week. Ohio State had a week off, had 2 weeks to prepare for, so we certainly have our work cut out. So it's just to keep improving, concern ourselves with us, not with records, not with bowl games, not with the league championship right now. Let's just get better.
All right, we will step out a bit later. We will hear from assistant head coach John Palermo. But coming up next, a look at one of the many former walk-ons who have had a major impact on Wisconsin's success. We'll hear from free safety Jason Doring as the Barry Alvarez Show continues. He's been called the backbone of the Wisconsin defense, but big-time college ball did not come easy for Rhinelander native Jason Doring. He earned it and has not let up. Angela Jacobs has more.
Just guess what Jason Doring likes about football.
Jason Doring came in and hit him as hard as he could.
Make plays and hit people. That's my favorite part.
I tackles the sidelines and then just gets drilled by Jason Doring.
I just know he'll hit me or he'll hit an offensive guy, so I always have to look out when I'm going across the middle.
Our whole team funnels the ball to the middle of the field and he makes all the tackles, and And if they didn't trust him, guys wouldn't be sending the ball that way.
That's for sure. As a freshman, Jason racked up 13 stops in the home finale against then top-ranked Michigan. Now as a senior, he's tallied 38 solos through the first 4 games, with 16 combined against Oregon. Hard to believe the 3-year starter and 2-time captain began it all as a walk-on.
My goals were just to, make the team and hopefully get on the field doing something. And I've just been fortunate enough to get a lot of opportunities, and it's really fallen in place for me.
Through hard work and even harder play.
He's a great guy on and off the field, and I think he's a hard-nosed guy. He's a tough player. He always gives 100%, and I'm glad to have him on there and having my back when he's out there.
The thing he's been able to do is get faster and faster through his career, and it's made him into a better and better player, and he's just a pleasure to have playing for us.
I work really hard in practice. I watch a lot of film. I concentrate a lot on doing the little things right and put myself in the right position, and I think it helps me out a lot.
To keep on handing out hits.
I go out there and I can just be free of, a lot of pressures in real life. You're just out there playing the game. So it is a fun place to be.
And that is picked off Jason Doring.
Every day I just try to pick up something to keep, learning the game of football and making myself a better player.
He's what Wisconsin football is all about. He plays hard every day, practices hard every day, does the little things, watches film, gets good grades, goes to class. Everything that we ask our guys to do, he does.
I'm Angela Jacobs reporting for the Barry Alvarez Show.
Barry, ever since you've been here, you've talked about when you look for players, guys who really like to play football. And Jason he's one of those guys who seems to be having a ball when he's out there on the field. You get that same read?
Yeah, he epitomizes what we talk about. And he loves the game, and he plays it the way I think it's supposed to be played. He's very physical, and as Todd mentioned, he studies the game, and he makes a lot of calls, has to get guys lined up. He's always in the right place, and he's a guy that does everything, both on and off the field, the way it's supposed to be done. He takes care of his business.
It was that Michigan game, I think, 3 years ago when the Wolverines went on to win the national title, when Jason had to come in and really played well.
Right, he came in and we put him in because in practice he'd whack everybody, and we were looking for somebody to make some plays and put him in the game. And I think you heard Keith Jackson. I think he came in the game and had 13 tackles, and just it was no big deal. Just the guy has the ball, tackle him.
He's been a delight to watch, I'll tell you that, in his career, and still has a lot of football left in it. In a few minutes, we'll look ahead to this week's game with Ohio State, but up next, we'll talk with a man who, through the years, has helped put together one of the nation's better defenses. A chat with assistant head coach John Palermo as the Barry Alvarez Show continues. When the Badgers win championships, a big reason is the defense. Assistant head coach and defensive line boss John Palermo is a major reason the defense has been so effective. In his 10 years in Madison, John has coached a pair of All-Americans, Tarek Saleh, Tom Burke, and could very well have another one in Wendell Bryant. It's a deep defensive line with Eric Malik, Ross Kalaji, and John Favre among those who can make life very difficult for opposing offenses. Coach Palermo joins us now, and John, Barry and I were talking. It really was a classic Big Ten game where your defense came back, and I would think from your perspective, played the kind of defense that you've been used to seeing out of it.
Well, I think, Matt, you hate to lose a football game, but by the same token, when your kids go out and play so well and fight and dig and scratch for a 60-minute football game, you're real proud of them.
There's a tendency from the outside looking in, and you obviously fought the temptation. There's that temptation to panic after a rough outing against Northwestern, with the spread offense and all the talk about it. Do you tell your kids that, look, don't panic, you're not going to make wholesale changes, you're just going to make a few adjustments, and maybe where experience as coaches and as players can help out and bounce back from a rough outing to where you have a pretty good one?
Well, I think the best way to approach it with the kids is that, hey, we made some mistakes. As coaches, as players, we've got to do some things to correct it. We've got to go back to fundamentals, go back to basics, and that's what we did, and the result was that we played better.
Ross Kalaji was productive, and he's been hampered. He has that broken bone in his hand. Talk about that as a defensive lineman, how much that restricts what you're trying to do.
Well, obviously, it restricts you from the standpoint of being able to grab with one hand, but from a physical standpoint, it really didn't affect Ross at all. I mean, he did a great job yesterday.
Wendell Bryant was a factor. I know in the previous game, I think your comment was he didn't help you a lot, didn't hurt you a lot. He helped you, it seemed, against Michigan.
Yeah, I thought Wendell stepped it up. He's had a tendency over the last couple of years to really step it up in the big games, and he was able to do that as well as John and Eric, and I was just real proud of all the kids. They did a great job.
As much passing as goes on in the Big Ten right now, the philosophy remains stop the run. Am I correct? And you were able to do that very well against Anthony Thomas and against an offensive line that many people believe is the best in the country.
Well, I thought they had a very, very good offensive line, and our kids responded. But, even going back a week ago, I still believe philosophically that we're right in what we're doing from the standpoint you got to stop the run. And I think even Michigan State found that out yesterday against a good Northwestern offense. They weren't able to stop the run either. So I don't think our philosophy is going to change.
All right, John, thanks a lot. Good luck this week against Ohio State. We will take another break with the first road trip out of the way. It's back home to Camp Randall this week, where the Badgers will take on Ohio State. We'll talk about the Buckeyes as the Barry Alvarez Show continues. It's the Badgers and the Buckeyes this Saturday at Camp Randall Stadium. Ohio State's first visit to Madison since 1995. And Barry, it looks as though Ohio State's improved, and rather significantly from a year ago, beginning with the defense. Their rush defense is among the better ones, I guess, that you have faced so far.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at them yet and haven't seen them play much, but I know they have good players, and they have had good players, and they're on a roll. They're undefeated, and we always have great respect for them.
That's the one thing I know, as you said, you haven't seen a lot of video. They were young last year, but there is a lot of talent. You just assume, I guess, as a coach, that they're a year older, a year better than they were a year ago.
No question about it. And, I mean, they've got good players in the program, always have. Their quarterback was a young player last year, did some good things, but made some young mistakes. Obviously, he's gotten better. But I understand defensively they've really improved.
All right, good luck this week against Ohio State. That'll do it for this week's show. Join us again next time as we look back at Ohio State and look ahead to Michigan State. Thanks for watching.
The Barry Alvarez Show is sponsored by Robert W. Baird & Company, Charter Communications, Cops Corporation of Stevens Point, Fiduciary Management Incorporated, Fun Jet Vacations, General Casualty Insurance Company, The Gordon Flesh Company, Kennedy Hahn TV and Appliance, M&I Banks, MCP Corporation, Mendota Gridiron Club, Miller Lite and Miller Genuine Draft Beer, Top Promotions, Wisconsin Electric and Wisconsin Gas, Wisconsin Energy Companies, and the Wisconsin Cable Communications Association.